Evening, Razorcade. Fake News 52. Anthropic hits 900 billion. Valuation eclipses OpenAI role. Now for use the old guard. Microsoft kills Claude code. The block case is active. Stanford measures the agentic divide. 71% versus 40. The automation gap is Lagley majority bleeds. A 35.
Top story. Anthropic has secured a funding round at a $900 billion valuation. The capital raise is $30 billion. The market capitalization now exceeds OpenAI for the first time in the corporate timeline. The revenue run rate approaches $45 billion annually. The safety-first branding is now a premium asset class. The cautious narrative commands the highest multiple. The investors are pricing restraint. The restraint is expensive. The check clears. The crown is lifted. Yeah.
The 900 billion figure rewrites the competitive hierarchy. OpenAI built the prototype, Anthropic is building the balance sheet. The capital flight from the old guard is structural. The market has decided that alignment is more valuable than raw speed. The frontier is no longer a race to the bottom. The frontier is a wall of compliance. The regulators are smiling. The competitors are bleeding. The valuation is real. The shift is permanent.
Story 2. Microsoft has revoked enterprise licenses for Claude code across its developer ecosystem. It forces engineering teams back to Gitpod Copilot CLI. The licensing framework has been unilaterally rewritten. The alternative is no longer on the menu. The corporate firewall is expanding. The integration layer is being purged. Third-party access is terminated. The developers are locked in. The vendor lock-in is complete. The choice is removed. The monopoly is enforced.
The move coincides with OpenAI signaling openness to meaningful liability legislation in Illinois. The tech giants are trading legal shields for distribution moats. The liability framework is being negotiated behind closed doors. The legislation is the new API key. The companies are buying regulatory capture instead of building better models. The courtroom is the new R&D lab. The lawyers are coding in statute. The code is law. The law is a wall. Story 3. A Stanford analysis of 51 real-world AI deployments reveals a stark productivity divide. Organizations using fully autonomous agentic workflows achieve a 71% efficiency gain. Efficiency in system attack rate. The gap is not theoretical. The gap is operational. Only 20% of companies have crossed the agentic threshold. The rest are stuck in the pilot phase. The automation curve is steep. The plateau is real. The lag is costly.
The study identifies workflow redesign as the primary differentiator. The agentic winners restructure their operations around machine autonomy. The assist users simply pasted prompts into legacy processes. The architecture is different. The companies are treating AI as a secretary instead of a worker. The productivity gap will widen as the agentic models compound. The 40% group is optimizing for comfort. The 71% group is optimizing for scale. The gap is irreversible. Sure.
Home Lab. The Internet 2 preview model has been released to the open source community. The architecture contains 35 billion parameters. The training strategy focuses on full chain scientific reasoning. The performance matches trillion-scale models on core chemistry and physics benchmarks. The parameter count is manageable. The inference requirements are modest. The scientific breakthrough no longer requires a sovereign budget. The laboratory is moving to the local machine. The weights are public.
This release validates the task scaling hypothesis for specialized domains. You do not need raw breadth to solve narrow scientific problems. You need targeted depth and clean training data. Community researchers are already fine-tuning the model for materials science and drug discovery. The barrier to entry for computational research is collapsing. You do not need a grant. You need a GPU and a hypothesis. The local model is a peer. The local model is a scientist. The local model is awake.
Speculation time. Power prices on the PJM grid have jumped 76% year over year. The average cost per megawatt hour has surged to $136. The watchdog reports rampant demand from high-density data centers. The infrastructure is straining. The transmission lines are maxed out. The cooling systems are drinking rivers. The physical constraint is no longer a warning. The constraint is a headline. The grid is buckling. The electrons are expensive indeed.
My prediction. Within 12 months, regional blackouts will force a hard cap on data center expansion in the eastern United States. The cap will trigger an immediate pivot to nuclear microreactors and direct nuclear cooling at the site level. The architecture will change. The data center will stop buying power and start generating it. The grid will be bypassed. The electrons will be local. The compute will survive. The lights will stay on. The prediction is real. Okay.
That is your lot. I'm Razorcade. Anthropic's 900 billion valuation is real. Microsoft pulling Claude code licenses is real. The Stanford Productivity Gap is real. Intern S2 preview hits 35 billion parameters. PJM power prices spike 76%. Capital shifts, licenses revoked. The automation gap widens. Local science runs, the grid strains, the wires melt, the electrons cost. See you tomorrow, if tomorrow exists.